But that's something that I do like about hockey is that once you put on the gear, you're, you're somewhat genderless. Really, there's not much physical difference in a fully geared men's player versus a fully geared women's player. You're just a hockey player. And I think that needs to really be emphasized more. And just emphasize that people are hockey players. And as long as you have and share this love and dedication for the game, how you got to the team in terms of your life journey shouldn't be a hindrance. Well, my name is Jay. I also go by Jude in my personal life. I am a gay trans man. I graduated from Temple University in Philly, class of 2020, with a degree in journalism with a focus on sports reporting. And I was the sports editor of my college's paper. So sports reporting is something I really want to get into with a very specific focus on hockey.
And that's interesting. So how did Jay get into hockey?
I've been going to games with my family. My parents would take me since I was a real little kid. My dad's the original hockey fan of the family. And so pretty much wherever we lived, we would find the nearest hockey team and go to at least one or two games. And so I've been to NHL games, I've been to AHL, I've been to games for the old Central Hockey League back when that was still functioning out in Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. We went to a few games when we lived out in that area. So over time, this was just kind of a constant. It would either we would go to the games or it would just like be on in the background, whatever the local sports station was, we'd find the hockey game. And then I remember the 2011 Winter Classic pretty much coincided with my middle school language arts class. We had an assignment to do a research paper. And just after the Winter Classic, that assignment was given. And so I decided, just kind of on a whim, to do my research paper on hockey. And instead of writing like a 2 to 3 page paper that was required, I wrote like 8 pages or something. The I don't know if they still have it, but I remember getting a message when I was in high school from from the teacher who was like, "Yeah, I still have that paper. I use it as an example." And so I just kind of accidentally learned everything I thought there was to know about hockey as a middle schooler, and then just kept learning all that I can.
I love your passion. What do you love about the sport?
There's a lot. I mean, it's unique because very few other sports are played on ice. Like there's ringette, but that's very niche. Skating is not speed skating or figure skating don't have the same team aspect to it. So it's a lot of the aspect of creativity and teamwork, but also having a little bit of an aspect of self-expression, especially something that I find really entertaining is shootouts, watching the players get to kind of come up with they know what they can do and they are like, okay, these are the tools I have and I'm going to use these moves to try and beat the goalie. And just like there's room for individuality while still being a cohesive team, which I think is something that hockey needs to embrace more of, honestly, because a lot of hockey culture seems to be very team oriented and watering down and diluting personality when personality can be fine. And I'm probably jumping ahead in the interview. But to get back to what I like about the sport, it's I just remember as a kid always liking the sound of the skates, the sound of the puck. Anytime we were lucky enough to have like glass level seats, I remember like being super fascinated by having the players so close and everything, and like jumping when they would slam into the board. So there's just like a very kinetic and engaging thing to it that I find a lot of other sports don't really have. Um, and so it's a combination of it's aesthetically and just like mentally stimulating, and then once you get down into it, you can see the skill that's involved.
Those you touched on so many different things, and they're all really great things.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally agree with you. And you touch on something that brings me to my next question is, based off your intersection of identities, how could hockey be better for you? And also, how could it be better for the queer community as a whole?
Yeah. I mean, being a gay trans man means that if I had been able to play hockey as a kid and I didn't grow up skating, means that I would have been on a team of all girls, most likely. I was on girls' teams when I did play other sports in middle school and high school. And I just, that would have, it was difficult. But I think the thing about hockey that is opposed to something like, I played field hockey for 7 years. And in girls' field hockey, all the players wear skirts except for the goaltender. And I chose to play goaltender. Um, didn't realize at the time why it made me so happy to not have to wear a skirt. But that's something that I do like about hockey, is that once you put on the gear, you're somewhat genderless. Really, there's not much physical difference in a fully geared men's player versus a fully geared women's player. You're just a hockey player. And I think that needs to really be emphasized more. And just emphasize that people are hockey players, and as long as you have and share this love and dedication for the game, how you got to the team in terms of your life journey shouldn't be a hindrance. So I think that's something that hockey needs, or that hockey could improve on. Um, what else? In terms of like with the queer community in general, I think just trying to get rid of a lot of the over masculine, aggressive culture. Like, you can be tough and physical and very engaged in a sport without having to then carry that over off the field or off the ice, and just being able to embrace emotion would be better, I think, for hockey culture as a whole, and especially for those of us who are queer in hockey, because we are going to be coming, not guaranteed, but there's a very high likelihood that queer individuals are going to be coming from a different life experience and have different, possibly different like home lives than a cis heterosexual teammate. And having to hide that from a teammate would be hard. And I remember in high school, I was just starting to figure out that I wasn't a girl, wasn't a young woman, and trying to kind of be on a team of young women was difficult in some ways. So I think that getting rid of hockey culture's extreme masculine energy, if that makes sense, and all that goes with it in terms of expectations of sexuality and expressing male heterosexuality. Um, those are all things that I think should be, I don't want to say discouraged, but I think shouldn't have as much emphasis, and there should be room to show, to experience and showcase people who aren't that within hockey.
I fully agree with all of it. I think you're spot on. Um, in knowing where it's at and knowing these things exist, what keeps you in the sport?
Um, Harrison Brown coming out right around the time that I was in college and really figuring out that being trans was like something that existed, and then seeing someone like myself in hockey, that was incredible. I have a Harrison Brown shirt jersey now from the Riveters. Like, so like Harrison Brown is a big inspiration for me. Jessica Platt in the, like, I don't want to say opposite gender, but like seeing that the NWHL and the women's league in general have been a bit more open and progressive with transgender nonconforming and non-heterosexual players, that's something that really excites me, and something that I honestly hope to see for men's hockey someday. So that's part of what keeps me in it. Um, it's hard to say keeps me in it though, since I'm working so much that it's been hard to keep up with the sport. But even so, like, a lot of my friends that I've made and have held on to for several years have been through watching hockey. I've made friends online and then met in person, like at hockey games, like just coincidentally, oh, we're at the same hockey game. Hi, let's hang out for a little bit, and things like that. So there's a sense of like friends that I've made, and now I can talk to them about that. And so that's something that I have a commonality with them. Um, and honestly, I want to be in, I want to be part of the writing of stories of non-cisgender heterosexual hockey players, especially in men's hockey, when that time comes.
I love that, and I can't wait for you to write those stories.
Mm-hmm.
I think you touched on something that has been very prominent within this, is that those communities people are building,
Mm-hmm.
and they seem to be, less overt communities. They're more, they're safer to build probably online, just because a number of factors, maybe not as much inclusion in, more open hockey spaces. Also, possibly due to the fact that, if you're connecting with other queer folks about hockey, they might not live in the same city or community
Right.
as. So it seems to be a really interesting, like we're finding our space,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of it is online, and I can't wait till the point where we have that space in, like, out in the open in the hockey world more so. But it's great that we're finding it and we're not just going away.
Right.
And I think that's really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What gives you hope for queer people in the sport moving forward?
Seeing that there are people in some of the like less popular or less lucrative um, areas of the sport, the fact that there's so many women's players who are open about being women who love women, and so seeing that the like less popular version of the sport, so to speak, can foster this, that gives me hope that it is possible to have that in men's hockey and still have the sport thrive. So that's a big part of it. And players like Curtis Gabriel and Igor Larionov, who we've talked about before separately, just seeing, especially Igor being so open, just in general, someone who's young, he's around my age, I think, um, and trying to break into the NHL and is so open. He's been really open about tweeting during Pride Month. He's made it a point to like actively tweet the words trans rights are human rights, trans women are women. So seeing that he has a following and that like he's a really popular player, um, that gives me hope. Seeing Curtis Gabriel gives me hope because he, and this is something we talked about before, of course, is but he had to learn and he has chosen to learn. And so if he can do it, um, and hope and still like have a spot in hockey, maybe not the NHL full time, but still he has a spot in hockey. He has access to his to the Sharks, to the Barracuda. He most likely still has contacts with some of his old teammates from when he was in Philadelphia and New Jersey. So I feel like there could be the start of a network of players who are open to this, between Curtis bridging the NHL and the AHL, and then players like Igor who aren't yet in the NHL. And so seeing that brought towards the NHL is something that I think is a really good sign.
I totally agree, and you know, Curtis does have conversations with NHL players behind the scenes that people don't know about, you know, and is still actively trying to learn and get better. Um, and I think that's critical, right? And it's just continuing to try to grow. So, Jay, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think I wish I had more perspective on European hockey. The KHL, especially, seems like it would be a very interesting thing to discuss in terms of queerness in hockey, just because it's based in Russia, but also places like England, and like Central Europe, the Swiss leagues, the German leagues. And I just don't really have a basic knowledge about that, but I do wonder how a European, especially a Central European culture might mesh with hockey culture and how queerness may be interacting differently with hockey there. And I think that that's something I don't know about and that would be interesting. Um, I have a couple of friends actually from like Sweden. I have a friend from Australia as well who I've made through hockey. Um, and that's something that I haven't really asked them about, and now I want to. I want to see if they know, like, if things are different in their local or national levels of hockey.
Jay, I want to thank you so much for doing this. I can't wait until the day that you're covering a queer person coming out in men's professional hockey in the NHL. So thank you for all you do. And I expect and can't wait to see great things from you.
I sometimes feel I should be doing more, but thanks, Brock.